is Good Morning Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
My question is, what is the difference between rental tax and income tax? How comes I'm paying both taxes on my own premises? If you want to have a tin, but you are not making any income from your business, you should take on the obligation to continue filing your nil return.
General, to invest in taxation. When people understand taxes and they know the importance of taxes and they know the fair assessment of these taxes.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome back from the business desk with Robert. It's time for the agenda. And perhaps you could say that there's a bit of business that we are talking about, or a whole lot of business in today's agenda. My name is Julie F. Nantaba. And this morning we are looking at labor externalization. Where are the opportunities? Where are the challenges? Of course, as we look forward to celebrating the International Labor Day, let's also shed light on the side of things regarding labor externalization. And to have this conversation with us is an expert at it, passionately serving in this field, Ashe Chitandwe, who is the CEO of Enjazi Limited. But he's not just a CEO, he is a Rotarian and former vice chairperson of the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies, currently the president of Rotary Club of Lunguja and the Katikiro of, let me say it as it's supposed to be said, Katikiro Wechikache Ngonge. He is here in studio with us, and in particular, we're shedding light on the issue of labor externalization. Be part of the conversation. 0709-602592 by text, WhatsApp. Good morning, OHT.
Good morning to you, Julie. Thank you very much for that very, very kind introduction.
Right.
Good morning, viewers of Good Morning Uganda and UBC at large. I'm happy to be here this morning.
Pleasure having you this morning as we look at this very important topic that covers most Ugandans. From up to top, everyone in one way or the other is involved and is touched by it directly and indirectly. Right. So for the purpose of context and clarity, let's start by defining what labor externalization is, as simple as possible, how one should understand it as.
Okay, thank you very much, Julie. Labor externalization in the simplest of contexts, it's labor migration to countries that are, of course, to other countries. So these are Ugandans that leave our country to go and work in other countries. In simple terms, it's migration that's directly has Ugandans who are going to work abroad.
So even if I left here and went to Kenya,
yes,
I would be abroad.
Yes,
you'll be it's African umbrella.
Yes, you'll be a migrant worker in Kenya. Yes.
Why is it trending lately?
Thank you very much for that very good question, Julie. First of all, migration in the bigger, or let me say in the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Migration is the in thing today, if I may say. When you look at the global figures, you'll be very shocked. And I want to start with the remittances, for example.
Right.
Looking at the African context. Last year, that is 2025, we had Egypt, for example. They had remittances of $28 billion into the economy. Nigeria, $23 billion into the economy. Our neighbors, Kenya, $7.8 billion. Uganda, we actually rose to $2.5 billion. I think you see the difference there.
Right.
And I think we shall have a conversation on that. But that shows you, if you do what we look at, what we call GDP. The GDP of our country has also grown. We are now at $66 billion, I think. Yes, about 66, if I'm not mistaken. And that shows you that 3-4 years ago, we were somewhere between 30 and 40. So that difference is speaking something. Then, it is also a global problem, especially when it comes to illegal migration. And that is where countries are actually struggling to find that there is safe and orderly migration. So it is the in thing. And we all look for greener pastures. And that is why you realize that people actually wake up every morning looking for ways of improving their lives. And for me, it is a good thing.
Right.
It is a good thing. If you took time and visited the Ministry of Internal Affairs, you'll be surprised how many foreigners are working here. And by the way, for your information, last year, the remittances to other countries from Uganda were at $1.4 billion. So it shows you that actually the migrant workers working in Uganda are also doing something for their own countries.
Right.
Thank you, Jill.
That's profound, and I love that you share these statistics, because therein allow me also ask regarding these statistics that you've shared, how best can one interpret them? I mean, with Egypt's $28 billion as of 2025, Nigeria $23 billion, Kenya $7.8 billion, and Uganda was at 2.5 billion. So how should one use these figures to perhaps push for labor externalization and actually be for it, given what Uganda has, 2.5 billion, comparing to Egypt that is at 28 billion? How should one use these figures? Very good, Judy. First of all, let me backtrack a little bit. Yeah. And I want to point out the Philippines specifically, because I'm going to refer to it. They are at $35 billion. And for me, what I can tell you is that these countries that have been able to bring in these big remittances, these big figures of remittances, actually doing a lot as far as bilateral agreements are concerned. I want to give you a case in point. Kenya here, they have 5 bilateral agreements with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, with Germany, with the UAE, with the UK. So, but Uganda, in comparison, we have 1 bilateral agreement. So I think that already explains why we are 2.5 and they are at 7.8. Yeah. But I also want to tell you that if we are intentional in signing more bilateral agreements as a country, then we shall be able to have more remittances coming. And that's why there is a disparity in those figures as far as the different countries are concerned. So that is one. Secondly, this particular money, once it comes into our economy, you realize that households actually improve their livelihoods, children go to school, people are treated and all these other things. But also, there is also what we call improvement of our local investments. And what do I mean by that? You realize that most of these migrant workers, once they come back here, they start businesses. Right. And when they start these businesses, of course, government gets some taxes in that particular area, but also they help us mitigate, on a small scale, unemployment within the country as well. But
if, for example, you looked at our unemployment rates in this country at the moment, you realize that this is also a mitigant to unemployment. At some point, we had over 400,000 Ugandans working abroad. I can't remember the year. I need to check. And these are 400,000 households receiving something that actually goes down to the last person. As you know, you realize now we have a real estate boom within the country, and this is partly related to this, or if not, you know, the bigger part related to this. So there are very many things that you can look at. But also, I want to tell you, Julie, that and the viewers, that also government actually receives $30 billion. Last year they received $30 billion in non-tax revenue. These are through job orders by foreign companies. If they want to work with a Ugandan agency, for example, there is what we call a job order. They need to place a job order on the government system called the External Employment Management Information System. This is handled by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. Now, that particular money, you realize that 28 billion out of the 30 is actually from the foreign companies. Then for us, as the local agencies, each job order goes for 200,000 shillings. So that means we've contributed $2 million. $2 million us locally. But then the foreign companies, $28 billion.
Right.
So that shows you that that is already a very positive effect on our economy, but also this particular sector. But my question is this: how fast can we have more bilaterals coming in so that we are able to bring in? I mean, Kenya is now at 7.8 billion. At some point, for us, we were at 1.1 billion, and for them, they were at about 3-4.
And that 1.1 was still at one bilateral signed.
Yes. So you can imagine.
Yeah.
Yes.
The more the merrier.
Exactly.
We are looking at labor externalization, the opportunities and challenges that lie therein, and we're having this conversation with Ashe Chitandwe, who is a CEO of Enjazi Limited, but also former vice chairman of the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies. Be part of the conversation, because at least we have expert knowledge and a plethora of it in studio for us to learn, unlearn, and relearn, and definitely at the end of the day, impact ourselves. How are you getting involved from this conversation? 0709-602-592 by text, WhatsApp, and engage. Now, let's look at some of the countries that are currently the biggest destinations for Uganda's workers and why. What are those countries? Okay,
first of all, of late, Ugandans are actually employed in the Middle East mostly. The Middle East actually has been, the biggest destination, for Ugandan migrant workers. And opportunities came along, I think it was around 2015, but before 2015, remember when the Iraq war took place in 2003, we started with security guards working in Iraq.
Yes.
Later, Afghanistan, and remember, Ugandans, there were very many that went for that for those opportunities in Iraq. So it has been growing, but of late, because we have one bilateral agreement, and that is with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We've seen very many domestic workers go and work in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but also other job opportunities. Let me be very clear on these bilaterals. These bilaterals don't only focus on one job area, no. These are general bilaterals. They look at administrators, for example, nurses, and all these other things.
Right.
Yes, do you want to say something?
Therein, let's also help the viewer, for purposes of context and relatability, understand the word we're using, bilateral.
Okay.
What is a bilateral agreement?
Okay, a bilateral agreement is an agreement between two countries. Specifically in this case, a bilateral agreement can be anything else, trade and all these other things. But specifically, since we're talking about labor, these are labor agreements agreed upon by the two nations. One are looking at the framework in which its citizens of particular X country, they're going to work. the conditions, all these other things. But also, remember, because these frameworks actually talk about the monitoring of these migrant workers, how much they're going to earn, and these other things. So that helps one to monitor, to understand, to improve in case there are issues and stuff like that. And then our people are protected because there is a bilateral agreement by the two countries. That means these two countries have technical committees to ensure that they monitor, they see the progress of this bilateral, see it out, see it through. In case there are challenges, look at ways of improving and also make sure that people enjoy their gainful employment in their destination country. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so far with the countries that we are flooding, the Middle East is in there.
Yeah.
Recently, there's the nurses also lately. Nurses, is it something that's now getting on the side of increase?
Right. The nurses, actually, most of them have been finding work, in countries like Australia, the UK, but also in the Middle East. Yes. And I think that's an area that we need to look at it properly.
Yeah.
Because there are some opportunities that come that require, the larger, government involvement to see that they. And I want to give an example. You see, Kenya, I think 3 or 4 years ago, they went and signed an agreement with the UK, to deploy health workers and nurses and stuff. And I want to tell you that that particular segment is doing very well. And for me, that is my cry, that we need to look at these opportunities and go for them. There are countries that are just waiting to just smell one opportunity, go for it.
Right.
So I think we can do so much in that particular area as well, and other areas, but also the area of skilling. We need to skill our people. You realize that sometimes you get job orders and you can't find people who are skilled enough.
Skilled in which areas?
And I want to give you an example. There was a job opportunity one of us got, and it was to do with plumbers and also construction workers, and also the other job category was were they masons? No, welders. And most of them missed out because they didn't have the necessary skills. So that is one area that we need to look at and skill our people more so that we are able to have them employable, because otherwise they come and go to other countries.
Right.
So we need to look deeply into that and see how we can tap into these particular opportunities that there are. And there are very many.
Yes.
So
and from what I hear you say, it
Yes.
looks like there's only been a scratch off of the opportunities. The scratch mostly has been with exporting, now like Saudi Arabia, where they need house caretakers, mostly.
Domestic workers,
domestic workers, or maybe even security guards.
Yes.
In line with that. But now if you think about it from what we've had, have just talked about,
Right.
it's the fact that now the nurses alone, the story is that for the nurses, many get these opportunities as and when they get there.
Right.
When they leave Uganda, they do not go as nurses. It's for any other reason. But along the way, because she or he has had of an opportunity, they represent their documents and they start working. But there's a risk in there as well.
Right.
If you think about it.
Yeah, because now that tells me actually, do they go as visitors? That's what it means.
Okay.
Well, so when you get there, then you look for this opportunity.
Right.
That's already trafficking.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean you're already, breaching.
You're trafficking yourself. the law can be so interesting.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed, and of course with skilling, now that you are out skilling,
Yes.
I'm looking at, of course, agencies, travel recruitment agencies working with TVET.
Right.
And they're in,
Right.
that's opportunities that are not yet scratched, and there's a lot of hope.
Exactly.
If I must say from this conversation.
Right.
We are looking at labor externalization and challenges and opportunities that lie therein. Be part of the conversation. 0709-602592 by text, WhatsApp, and engage. I'm having it with Ashley Chitandwe, who is the CEO of Enjazi Limited, but he is also the former chairman of the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies, a Rotarian at that, and currently the Rotary President of the Club of Lunguja, and he is the Katikiro Katikiro Wechka Chengonge at that stands under many hats with lots of authorities and serves his nation at that, as he is doing this time around in line with labor externalization. Now let's look at the processes that one is supposed to follow in order to be prepared, well prepared as a worker abroad.
Okay. Thank you very much, Julie, for that very good question. First of all, you realize that we need to know is the company that I'm going to get processed with licensed? And if you're up country, you can always visit your resident district commissioner. They normally have this information.
Right.
The district internal security officer, or what we call DISOs, they normally have this information. If you're around Kampala, you can visit the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. It's behind the Central Police Station here in Kampala, but you can also visit the website, the External Employment Management Information System website under the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. This information is actually there.
Right.
So after establishing that this particular company or agency that I'm going to get processed with is licensed, then look at the opportunities that are available. They need to share with you what is available, and if you know specifically what you want, then you make inquiries in that particular area. In most cases, these agencies will tell you what is available, and then you decide whether to go with it or not.
Right.
But you must also be very careful, because what is available, you can actually get that verified with the Ministry of Gender and Labour and Social Development.
In line with what is available.
Exactly.
Not just the company.
Exactly. So after you've established that, the ministry, actually, remember, the ministry is always supervising us as recruitment agencies. There should be a valid job order, and that is the ministry to verify that. Do you have a valid job order?
A job order?
Yes.
Should we look at it as an LPO from
Yes.
the
Yes.
company abroad
Exactly.
that needs workers?
Exactly. So if what is available has already actually been processed, and there is a job order approved already in that particular area, then you're good to go in that area. Then, secondly, you also need to ensure that what you're requesting for, or what you're applying for, is actually processed in a particular period of time, and that should be very clear. It should come out clearly. You should know that this is going to take a month, it's going to take 3 weeks, and stuff like that. So the agency or the company takes you through what is available. They take you through whatever you need to know in that particular area. But after all that is done, there are jobs that are actually are charged. Recruitment fees are charged, and there are jobs that recruitment fees are not charged. So depending on what the job category is. And I want to give you an example. My company has job opportunities in Somalia, for security guards, and these jobs are actually free of charge. All you have to do is qualify, and that's it. And registration fees that you're supposed to pay are 50,000 shillings, approved by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. That is all. But the job is free. Now the Ugandan company, my company, is actually paid by the employer or the employing or the hiring company. So there is that as well. So you need to know the specifics of the job category you've gone for, and then after that you're able to move. But it's very, very important to know, is this company licensed? Is this job available?
Available, yes.
And all these other things.
And I think that's the highlight there in now for me.
Exactly.
Because I don't think many Ugandans knew that there has to be a job order.
Yep.
Yes, you might know that the company is licensed and
Exactly.
only go by the company is licensed. The company is licensed. But this job that I'm getting onto that plane for,
Right.
did it actually have an order
Exactly.
placed?
Exactly.
Because
Is it approved?
Yes, is it an approved
Yes.
job order? Because it's possible
Exactly.
to go onto that plane
Right.
thinking you're going as a supermarket attendant,
Exactly.
and when you get there, it's a whole different story.
I receive very many calls from people. Oh, I went to this particular, I went to the UAE, They told me I'm going to do this, and yet when I got there, I found out that actually what they had told me is not what I'm doing. Then I asked 2-3 questions. So how did you go? When you check, you realize that this particular person was actually trafficked. Yes. So there are people out there that are actually misleading people.
Right.
And we need to be careful, Ugandans. Go through a licensed company. Go through proper channels. In that, when you get challenges, you have, mitigation, coming from your company, and because you've gone through formal channels. But when you're trafficked or when you go through illegal, channels, you get stuck because, no one knows how you got there.
Paint us a picture on the issue of passports, because some of the stories we've had with these companies is they either withhold your passport, or the person employing you whenever you get there has to first stay with your passport or things. How does that work? What are the terms and conditions around that?
Right. Legally, it is criminal, actually. Right. You're not supposed to withhold anyone's passport. And by the way, Julie, that passport is not yours. It belongs to the government of Uganda. Yes. So if you're holding someone's passport, you're holding yes,
of Uganda.
Exactly. So it is illegal, and if someone does that,
right.
If you're a migrant worker and your employer does that, please report. Your agency or company in Uganda will work with that particular company to make sure that employer returns your passport. It is illegal. It is not. It is not right. It is not right.
You are watching UBC TV. It's The Agenda, and we're looking at labor externalization, the opportunities and challenges that lie therein. Be part of the conversation. 0709-602-592 by text WhatsApp. I am with Ashe Chitandwe, an expert at it, and he's teaching us a lot of things. Many times we listen to news or read the media and only read them surface level, where we just hear things like a company took someone out and maybe they lost their life or their kidney was extracted illegally, and the company that recruited them from Uganda has gone MIA. And of course the word is that this company is licensed. You keep on wondering, isn't the government doing enough? But I think from this conversation, there's a lot that we are learning, a lot of detail that maybe we do not pay attention to, and we need to start paying attention to, even for us on our sides as those who seek employment to work abroad. So indeed, lots of things to learn, unlearn and relearn. Be part of the conversation. Once again, 0709-602-592. Now, yesterday, the 15th of April 2026, Parliament had a reading of the Protection and Sovereignty Bill 2026. And this is a bill designed to protect Uganda from foreign interference. Now, some of the pointers under the bill: a Ugandan citizen living outside Uganda is classified as a foreigner, and a family member in Uganda receiving funds from that person could qualify as an agent of a foreigner. And of course, before a bank releases that money, it would have to get a ministerial funding declaration and proof of authority from the Minister of Internal Affairs. Now, still under this bill, it contains no exemption for remittances. We've just looked at the numbers, the figures that remittances add onto a country's economy.
Right.
What do you have to speak into this bill?
Wow, thank you very much, Julie. This is a very interesting bill, actually. When you look at it from the point of migrant workers, you realize that there's going to be a very big challenge of tracking each and every transaction, because you remember some of the money is actually transferred electronically, directly to people's phones and stuff like that. So there is a conversation that I think our legislators need to really deeply look into. But also there are processes there that I see are quite interesting, because if you have all these checkpoints, in quotes, all these checkpoints, up to the minister, the Minister of Internal Affairs, you realize that there will be some delays definitely. You can't, I get a sense of that. But my overall opinion, of course, as a country, it's good to check, for security purposes and all that.
Right.
But I think we should have a cap, between this amount and this amount. That should be okay. That should be waived. But between amount X and amount Y, maybe there. So there should be a cap somewhere where we start from, but not every. If you have a transaction of $300, for example, surely why should that transaction go all the way
through the authorization?
Yes, exactly. So
and the bureaucracy.
Exactly. So that's my opinion on that particular.
Right.
Yes.
Definitely, it's still unfolding.
Yes.
So
yes.
I believe, as far as it goes, and whenever it's passed,
right,
we'll definitely be inviting you to speak and add knowledge onto that.
Right.
Now, some of the comments coming through. Good morning, UBC. I think we're going in a bad direction. The government has ignored the future of the country by not giving proper learning skills to the youth. Now we opened factories and people who are working in good salaries. And from the same investor who starts the business in Uganda, whereby a local Ugandan is left out due to learning skills. Left out, I think, due to learning skills or learning skills. I hope I'm getting you right. I'm not able to comprehend it. I don't know if you're comprehending this particular one as yet, but not yet for me. Please make clarity so that we respond effectively. Hello, thank you for hosting that expert. What are the required qualifications for a security job? I'm Faustin in Hoima City.
Okay. Thank you very much, Faustin. Let me share the number that you can call, and a conversation can take place.
Right.
The number is 07 681 801. You may call that number. You'll be given this information.
You can read it again, please.
Yeah, it's 0707 681 806. That's our office line.
Yep.
And please call that number. You'll be given this information.
All right. Faustin in Hoima City, please do get in touch and get all the information that you need. Now, what support systems do you have for workers who are working abroad?
Very good. First of all, like I said,
especially those facing challenges.
Yes.
There are those who are working and life is okay.
Right.
But there are those who are facing challenges and have had the opportunity to watch us this morning.
Yes.
And need a solution.
Right. One, I know the biggest challenge is actually in the area of domestic work. Domestic workers, this kind of work is very sensitive because you're a living employee. And because of that, you have people that have, different characters and all that stuff. But what I can tell is that us as companies here in Uganda, we are obligated to make sure that all Ugandans we externalize, we are actually accountable. And I want to tell you this, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is very, very, very strict on the on that particular point, the welfare of the migrant workers. And that is why for us, we've been able now, number one, to employ Ugandans as supervisors, as managers, and their job is to handle any issues that may arise. If these workers have challenges, if they're being abused and all that stuff, these Ugandan workers, these Ugandan supervisors and managers are actually supposed to follow up on these issues. If they're not able to handle them, then they're escalated, to the company owners like myself. I speak to my partner in Saudi Arabia, for example, and we make sure that we get solutions, to these issues. But also, the courts in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for example, are very serious, and they've actually taken very serious punitive measures, against those that have broken the law or abused our migrant workers. So if you've been looking at the trends, of late it is not as bad. It took us a bit of time because we're also learning on job, and I want to tell you, Julie, as Uganda, we've not done this for even 10 years. We are still learning. But I want to assure you that where we are right now, things are much better. But I also want to tell you that countries like the Philippines, for example, they've been in Saudi Arabia for more than 40 years. And for them, they actually have an overseas employment, office under their Ministry of Labor. So they go to the destination country and establish But for us as Uganda, what we've been able to do is to have labor attaches, you know, at our embassy, for example, in Riyadh, to see that any would-be issues are actually handled. And that is why you see that things are, you know, but also, remember, every Ugandan migrant worker, when you get, for example, in Saudi Arabia, you are provided with a SIM card.
Okay.
You don't leave Uganda without a smartphone. We should be able, when our teams are checking on you, they should be able to see you by video call, for example. They are able to see how you physically look and stuff like that. So if they pick up on any, you know, indicators, yeah, that you may be abused or anything, they're able to do the needful. Yeah. So that's what we are doing. But also our that is still under monitoring. So the government is doing its part, but we're also doing our part as well. But just know that we are accountable, fully accountable for every Ugandan we externalize, and we can only get relieved when they return in one piece.
In one piece.
Yes.
Right. And you're receiving your flowers here. Good morning, UBC. Good information. Well done.
Thank you.
And that is over to you. Now, this conversation definitely has to start wrapping up. But
yes,
I would ask, how do you assess the current regulatory framework for labor externalization in Uganda?
Thank you very much, Jelly. That's a very good question. Actually, we're doing very well. As far as the framework is concerned, we're doing very well. My only issue is with having more bilateral agreements. We need to have more bilateral agreements, because if you look at what we have, it is not enough, and yet we have very big numbers that need our services. They need these jobs. But someone will tell you, I don't want to do this and this and this, but I want this. Is it available? But it's not. So I think we need to do more in that area. But also, my appeal is to government to actually ensure that they increase the budget of the external employment unit. Because when you look at what they do vis-a-vis what is required, you realize that they're actually limited by resources. So if that particular external employment unit is actually supported more, then they are able to go out there and look for these opportunities, and then Ugandans benefit from them.
Right.
So for me, that is the most important thing. But the framework is thorough. It is thorough, and I'm proud of that.
Right.
But I also want to appeal to Ugandans. Let us look out for people that are interested in trafficking you. Human trafficking is illegal. Human trafficking puts you at risk. When you go through informal channels, your life is at risk. And in the end, you actually fall victim to all would-be manipulators of this world. So let's go through formal channels. Let us be patient. Go through the framework. Go through the process the government has provided, and then you'll enjoy gainful employment. Yes.
Very profound. Thank you very much. Owekitiibwa Wekikachengonge Ashe Kitandwe, CEO Enjazi Limited, as well as former chairman of the Uganda Association.
Vice chairman.
Former vice chairman, pardon me, of the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies, and of course the current president of the Rotary Club of Lunguja. He's been speaking with us regarding labor externalization, and we've learned of the opportunities therein and the challenges whose solutions are also underway and mitigated from left, right, center at the end of the day. I'd like to thank you for being on the show and being part of it. Up next is Ruben with JMU Sports. Tomorrow is a Friday, thank God. Let's do this again tomorrow.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
How are you as a tour and travels